All right, everyone, gather round because we need to talk about something seriously cool that's been shaking up the PC gaming world. If you've been putting together a parts list for a new gaming rig or just dreaming about an upgrade, you've probably heard the buzz. I'm talking about AMD's latest X3D processors. These things are not just a small step up. For gamers, they represent a massive leap forward. Think of it like finally getting that fiber optic internet connection after years of slow DSL. The difference is just that noticeable, and it changes the entire experience. We're talking about a piece of hardware specifically engineered to make your games run smoother than ever before. For years, the battle for the best gaming CPU has been a back and forth fight. Sometimes one company has the crown, then another one snatches it away. But with the introduction of the X3D lineup, AMD has thrown down a serious gauntlet. These processors, like the Ryzen 7 7800 X3D, have quickly become the talk of the town, and for a very good reason. They are delivering performance in games that is, frankly, mind-blowing. It's not about having the most cores or the highest clock speeds anymore. AMD found a different, smarter way to boost gaming performance, and it's all thanks to a clever bit of engineering that focuses on what games truly need: fast access to a ton of data. Now, you might be thinking, my current CPU seems fine. Why should I care about this new X3D thing? That's a fair question. Your current setup might run games perfectly well, but the X3D processors are all about pushing the boundaries and eliminating those annoying little stutters and frame drops that can pull you out of the action. It's about achieving a level of smoothness that makes the game world feel more real and responsive. This isn't just an upgrade for the hardcore esports pros, it's for anyone who wants the absolute best, most fluid gaming experience possible from their machine, making every session more immersive and enjoyable. So what makes these chips the new champions for gamers? It isn't some magic spell or a secret overclocking trick. It's a tangible piece of technology that AMD has bolted right onto their CPUs. They've essentially given the processor a giant backpack full of snacks. In this case, the snacks are game data. This approach is a game changer because it directly addresses one of the biggest bottlenecks in modern gaming. By keeping more data right next to the processor, it doesn't have to wait around, and that means your games can run faster and more consistently. Let's dive into exactly what this secret sauce is. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what makes these X3D processors so special. The magic ingredient is something AMD calls 3D V-Cache. Now, don't let the technical name scare you off. The concept is actually pretty simple to understand if you think about it in the right way. Imagine your computer's processor, the CPU, is a chef in a super busy kitchen. This chef needs ingredients to cook, which are the game's data. Normally, the chef has to run to the pantry or the fridge, which is your computer's main memory or RAM, to get what they need. This takes a little bit of time. What AMD did with 3D V-Cache is brilliant. They built a massive extra large spice rack and mini fridge right next to the chef's cooking station. This is the cache, a small, super fast type of memory. By making this cache much bigger, the chef can keep almost all the ingredients they need for the current recipe right within arm's reach. They don't have to run to the main pantry nearly as often. This saves a ton of time, allowing the chef to prepare dishes, or in our case, game frames, much faster and without any delays. That's the core idea behind the extra cache on X3D chips. The 3D part of the name is also quite literal and very cool. Instead of just making the cache area wider on the chip, which would take up too much space, AMD figured out how to stack it vertically. They built upwards. Think of it like building a skyscraper instead of a sprawling single-story mall. This vertical stacking allows them to cram an enormous amount of cache into a tiny area right on top of the processor cores. This is a huge engineering achievement, and it's the key to why this technology is so effective. It keeps that massive cache physically close to where the calculations happen. This massive pool of L3 cache, as it's technically called, is a paradise for modern games. Games are constantly asking the CPU for information, things like character locations, object physics, and player actions. When the CPU has to fetch this data from the slower system RAM, it creates a tiny delay. When thousands of these requests happen every second, those tiny delays add up and can cause stuttering or lower frame rates. With the huge 3D V cache, the vast majority of that data is already sitting in the cache. Yang, ready to go. The CPU gets what it needs instantly, leading to a much smoother ride. So, we know what 3D V cache is, but what does it actually mean for your gaming sessions? The primary benefit is a significant boost in what we call 1% lows. This is a fancy term for the worst case scenario frame rates. You might have a game that averages 120 frames per second, which sounds great, but if it frequently drops down to 30 FPS during intense moments, the experience will feel choppy and frustrating. The X3D processors are amazing at smoothing out these dips. By having all that data ready in the cache, the CPU is never caught off guard, even when a giant explosion happens on screen or you enter a crowded city. This translates directly into a more consistent and fluid gameplay experience. Think about playing a competitive shooter like Valorant or Counter-Strike 2. In these games, every millisecond counts. A sudden frame drop at the exact moment an enemy appears can mean the difference between winning and losing a round. With an X3D processor, the frame rate stays much more stable, giving you a clearer and more reliable picture of the action. Your aim feels more responsive, and the game feels more connected to your inputs, which can give you a real competitive edge over players on less capable hardware. It's not just for esports titles either. Big open world games like Cyberpunk 2077 or simulation heavy games like Microsoft Flight Simulator see some of the biggest gains. These games are constantly loading new assets and calculating complex physics and AI behaviors, all of which are very demanding on the CPU. The massive cache on an X3D chip acts like a huge buffer, feeding the CPU everything it needs to render these complex worlds without a hitch. Driving through Night City feels incredibly smooth, and flying over a dense urban area in a flight sim is less likely to turn into a slideshow, making the whole experience far more immersive. Compared to older AMD CPUs, even the high-end ones from previous generations, the difference in gaming is stark. A standard Ryzen 9 from a couple of years ago might have more cores, which is great for video editing or 3D rendering. But for pure gaming, a newer Ryzen 7 X3D chip will often beat it soundly. That's because most games can't use 16 or 24 cores effectively, but almost every game benefits from having its data fed to the CPU faster. This is why the X3D processors are so special. They are laser focused on solving a core problem that specifically holds back gaming performance. The final verdict. Now we come to the big question. Is an AMD X3D processor the right choice for you? If you are building a new PC today and your primary focus is gaming, the answer is an overwhelming yes. The performance you get for your dollar is simply unmatched by almost anything else on the market. Chips like the Ryzen 7 7800 X3D have hit a sweet spot of price and performance that makes them the default recommendation for high-end gaming builds. You are buying a component that is specifically designed to excel at the thing you want to do most, and it delivers on that promise in a big way. When you put an X3D chip up against its direct competition, it holds its ground incredibly well. While some competing CPUs might boast higher clock speeds or better performance in productivity applications, they often can't match the raw gaming prowess of the X3D lineup, especially when it comes to that silky smooth frame rate consistency. For a pure gamer, the choice becomes clear. Why pay for features you won't use, like extra cores for workstation tasks, when you can invest in a technology that directly boosts your in-game frame rates and smoothness? It's about picking the right tool for the job, and for gaming, X3D is that tool. Ultimately, the reason gamers should care about AMD's X3D processors is simple. They make games better, they provide higher average frame rates, and more importantly, they dramatically improve the lowest frame rates, eliminating the stutters that ruin immersion. This technology represents a smarter, more efficient way to build a gaming CPU. Instead of just cranking up power draw and clock speeds, AMD focused on a real-world bottleneck and engineered an elegant solution. It's a specialized piece of hardware that delivers a tangible, noticeable improvement in the applications that gamers care about most. So, to wrap it all up, the X3D processors from AMD are a triumph of engineering aimed squarely at the hearts of gamers. By cleverly stacking a massive amount of L3 cache directly onto the processor, AMD has created a line of CPUs that chew through game data like nothing else. This results in a smoother, faster, and more consistent gaming experience across the board, from fast-paced shooters to sprawling open worlds. If you're serious about PC gaming and want the best performance you can get, putting an X3D chip at the heart of your rig is one of the smartest moves you can make in 2025.